Well, good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight, the show that is the sworn enemy of lying, pomposity, smugness, and groupthink. Time magazine just reminded us it exists by naming President-elect Donald Trump as the Person of the Year. Fair enough. Hard to think of anyone more newsworthy this year than Donald Trump. But to many on the left, Time's cover was a reminder that Trump is indeed going to be president and was therefore a trigger. Here now is one person who felt that way, Erin Crotty. She's a Democrat and former congressional candidate from California. Erin, thanks a lot for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
The reason I want to talk to you was a tweet that you sent out after seeing the cover, I think, on the Today Show this morning, and you wrote this. Adolf Hitler was Times Man of the Year in 1938. Donald Trump is Times Man of the Year in 2016. Discuss. And I just saw the irony there because comparing someone to Hitler, of course, is not an invitation to discuss. It's the end of the discussion, isn't it?
Well, I think that there are a lot of lessons that we can learn from the 1930s and Nazi Germany. Not to say that this is the identical situation, but there's a lot to be gained from looking back, how we cannot make the same mistakes of the past.
Huh. So what kind of conversation, describe the discussion that you were trying to invoke by comparing Trump to Hitler.
I think that it's very important that we are critical, that we do not normalize or sanitize the rhetoric or actions of Donald Trump or the ghastly appointees to his new administration. And I want people to remain vigilant. I want people to realize that none of this is normal, none of the hate speech, the hate crimes that are spiking in the United States. And we, as the American people, have to hold our president-elect accountable.
Okay. So you've made a lot of pretty general statements. And by the way, I don't think there's any danger of Trump going uncriticized during his term as president.
Well, I think that something like hearing the way that the media...
You just compared him to Hitler now. So, clearly there's, a vigorous conversation about Trump underway, and you're part of it. But you said his ghastly appointees. Give me an example.
Today, you're talking about appointing a head of the EPA, someone who has sued the EPA on behalf of the coal industry and the coal lobby. You're talking about putting a known anti-Semite...
Who is that?
Pruitt.
Who is that?
The Attorney General Pruitt. Today.
And what was the suit about? Do you know?
Yeah, he was suing on behalf. It was a part of what the New York Times actually called a secretive alliance between energy firms, between state prosecutors, where he is Attorney General, and between oil and gas companies. And they...
So let me just say this. It doesn't sound like you know a ton about this, but he was one of 28 attorneys general. So the majority of states sued the Obama administration over its environmental regulations. So you can't just say he was acting on behalf of oil and gas companies. The majority of states were involved in that suit.
He actually appropriated text out of a letter written by the oil and gas companies as his own.
Right. So what about that did you disagree? In other words, so what you're doing here is you're quoting out of context of a New York Times piece that says because he has the same views as an oil and gas company, they're illegitimate, but you're not actually making the case against him. And that, I guess, is what bothers me. I think there are a lot of cases to be made against Trump or his policies, and that's all totally legitimate. What is not legitimate and what does not lead to fruitful conversation or solutions is name-calling, and that's what you're doing.
I don't believe so. I think that someone who sues to remove protections that protect families, American families, from mercury, from arsenic, that protect our wetlands, that reduce the air pollution so that we can have a right to breathable air is not name-calling.
Nobody is contesting a right to breathable air. I guess my point, just to say it again, is you don't actually know anything about what you're talking about, and you're throwing out a lot of allegations as if someone were against clean air or for mercury. Is there another side to the case? Do you understand their position, or does that not even interest you, learning what they think?
It's not about learning what they think. It's about the fact that this man, who is the head of the EPA, the nominee, has already acted on behalf of these very things about which we're speaking. He has sued to lessen the regulations from an environmental and public health standpoint. That is fact. That's non-negotiable. Around air pollution?
It's not. You can't name a single one. I think. Now, I'm talking about
three
I think you studied
ones.
at the Department of Social and Cultural Analysis at NYU. Do you have a degree in the hard sciences?
I do have a degree in social and cultural analysis. I'm the proud co-founder of Turning Green, a nonprofit, and we've been working on environmental advocacy since January 2005.
What's so amazing is that someone can start an environmental nonprofit with no science background. Do you think that's a little weird?
No, I don't think that's a little weird. I think that there are a
Apparently you
number
don't.
of angles to come at this from. We partner with, and I'm proud to partner, a number of environmental organizations with sound scientists on their staff. 350.org, NRDC came out today to absolutely categorically call out this man for being a climate denier.
And maybe a climate denier. So anybody who disagrees with the received point of view that you espouse is not a legitimate critic
This
or raising
man
questions.
is
He's a denier
puppet of the fossil fuel industry. He is a puppet.
Right. Yeah, I don't actually think you know anything about him or the suit, and I don't think you have the background to make those
I can
claims.
cite
This is what
three
bothers me. These
specific
are
suits: wetland protection, the air pollution, and the toxins related to mercury and
What does
arsenic.
that
That's
even
three
mean?
specific things.
The air pollution? What
He
suit is that?
sued
What law
to-
was he contesting?
He sued to reduce regulations around carbon pollution in the air.
Okay. So all regulations are good, and anyone who challenges them is an accomplice to Hitler's rise, is a denier. I mean, what you're doing
No, these are
is
conclusions to which
preventing
you are arriving.
No, actually, I'm not making the claim. I'm merely saying there's probably another side to the argument. You seem wholly ignorant of it and not interested in learning it. And instead,
very
you are
interested in
content
learning
with
it.
dismissing this guy as a moral criminal. And I'm saying that that's not the kind of conversation that leads to solutions. It's the kind that leads to demonizing other people. And that's bad. That's my point. Do you not accept that? Can you see what I'm talking about?
I see what you're talking about, that name-calling and hate speech and toxic rhetoric is how we've derived at this point. We have a president-elect who has built a whole campaign cycle
You just
around it.
compared this guy to Hitler, and then
he
with a
has-
straight face, you're going to accuse him of engaging in hate speech. I mean, I'm sorry, I can barely hear the irony alarm is so loud in the background. I don't want to be cruel to you.
This
and
man,
I'm just saying,
Donald
if you don't
Trump, has
recognize that-
appointed as his chief strategist and top advisor, Steve Bannon. Are you going to tell me that Steve Bannon is not a white supremacist, is not an anti-Semite, that he is putting that very ideology in the Oval Office?
Yeah. All right. We got the hand gestures down, but the argument leaves something to be desired. Aaron, thanks a lot for joining us. I appreciate it.